almost everybody else is aspiring to accomplish. You just won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. It is entirely plausible that Doug Peterson could go in there and say, this is on me. This was an awful year, okay? We're going to make the necessary changes, and we're going to move forward. And if I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I give him an opportunity to do that because he's already shown me he could get the job done. They've been to the playoffs the previous 3 years. They won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. This is the first time he's missed the playoffs in 4 years, all right? And most of it, according to Max, was because of the play of Carson Wentz, not the coaching of Doug Peterson. So Doug Peterson had a very bad and embarrassing week. It was obviously a very bad season, but according to Max, it was because of Carson Wentz, his hard-headedness, his unwillingness to listen, his unwillingness to be coachable, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if all of that is true, are we going to sit here with a straight face and say that a Super Bowl champion, 3 years removed from being a Super Bowl champion and going to the playoffs the last 3 years, and this is the first time he's missed the playoffs in 4 years, we're going to just sit up there and say, you know what? We don't want you. Goodbye. Get the hell up out of here. We want nothing to do with you. I think that's a bit excessive. I don't think Doug Peterson deserves that. I think he deserves the opportunity to come back and to make amends for an obvious mishap that transpired this weekend.
Well, you're pointing out the fact that Doug Peterson's an excellent coach. I agree. I think Doug Peterson can really coach. I think Carson Wentz was the issue, and you saw no matter any other quarterback that Peterson inserted and just ran his offense, whatever he wanted them to do, did very well. That's different than saying he should remain in this job. That's a different thing. Howie Roseman, first of all, let's start with the GM, hasn't drafted a Pro Bowler in 5 years. 5 years. And yet Peterson was on board with tanking, in my opinion, in order to move from 9 to 6. But he passed up on DK Metcalf, and he passed up on better receivers for worse receivers. He's better off drafting 9 than 6. Maybe a good player will fall to him, and he doesn't have to choose one of choose a lesser player instead.
So he's excellent, but should still be fired.
Roseman has not done the job. And Peterson, based on what he did yesterday, you're not going to keep a locker room next year. You listen to Jason Kelce. It's the December 19th media availability. Google it. I highly recommend it. It's worth your time. Listen to what Jason Kelce says. If I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I have to send a message to the locker room. Even if the coach and the GM don't get it, I do. You gotta tear this down and start again. You're right about your assessment of Peterson being a good coach. I agree with that. Not the right coach for this job right now.
Man, this is such a horrible conversation. Your resume determines whether you keep a job or not. Yes. And for the most part, Doug Peterson's resume in the last 4 years is as good as anybody's in the league. When you start having a conversation about what coaches should go and not go. We talked about a hobbled team last year making the playoffs in the last week of the season, beating the Dallas Cowboys. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. And I know how important coaching is in the NFL. I know how important coaching is in college football. But Nick Saban ain't the greatest coach of all time in football without the players. Go look at the list of names that he had the opportunity to coach. This is not rocket science. Doug Peterson is a good coach, had a bad year. He can get the locker room back because he won a Super Bowl with a lot of those guys that were in the locker room. And they'll be fine moving forward if they get the players and surround him with people that can make plays. Bottom line, that's what he's done for the majority of his time in Philly. So having a conversation based off this year and the locker room and all the things that transpired with Carson Wentz. And two, another thing people fail to mention when they throw that point out there, half of this damn locker room going to be gone anyway. It's about to be a redo anyway of this football team. So I get it. I understand it. I'm with you, Max. If there is no shadow of a doubt that Doug Peterson can't come back and get this locker room and get guys bought in and win, you got to move on if players ain't going to follow the coach. But I don't think that's the case. I really don't think that's the case because Doug Peterson can go in front of a team and say, guys, look what we've done. Look what we've accomplished. Look what I've been able to accomplish as a head coach. Believe in me, and we can move forward and be a good football team.
And by the way, Molly, Max, Marcus, are we absolutely positively sure that Jeffrey Lurie did not sign off on this? We don't know that.
No, that's we
don't know that.
Man.
Or that, if Doug Peterson was given
Good
marching
point.
orders,
Doug
that's
Peterson
something else.
owned it, but
That's a possibility.
Yeah, he ain't gonna tell on his owner.
All right, we'll see. Here's what I do know: if it was the Steelers,
It
your
seems like his
Steelers team, or
hands were
Marcus,
tied
your
about Carson Wentz
Cowboys
for a while.
Let's hear from Molly.
that got
Max.
jobbed by Philly, you'd both be crying. I don't know if you heard that statement, but anyway.
No, I've been there.
Yes, bye,
I've been there.
Marcus.
I've needed,
Marcus, happy
I've
New
needed
Year.
teams to win.
Love you.
And they did.
Goodbye.
All right, happy New Year.
Head coach in any major sport talking about another head coach like that, particularly in the division, a divisional rival. But then on top of that, if someone were to talk like that, you would think they would have the equity built in. They would have the gravitas of having won a championship, not been in their first year. And certainly, if they were in their first year, the guy they're talking about wouldn't be a Super Bowl winner. But in fact, what this demonstrates, when a rookie head coach can talk about a Super Bowl winner like that in the division, and the whole world is like, that's exactly right. What that means is it's time for the Super Bowl champion coach to go, and the GM. And I've been saying this for quite a while now. After the whole Carson Wentz debacle, this is the final straw. But even had nothing occurred before this, this would be enough to strongly consider it. Guys, the reporting is the coaches and the players were stunned by the move. The Eagles, coaches and players, let alone the rest of the world watching that game, stunned by the move. If that head coach and that GM are still in place in the beginning of next season, how are you going to keep that locker room? Who's going to play for them? What this says about the Eagles is they are in full rebuild mode. It should have started the following morning. Following morning, it should have already happened. But they should be in full rebuild mode by this upcoming season. Guys, the only question is, do you believe Jalen Hurts can be the answer? Do you have a franchise quarterback with that guy you took in the second round? And that's what makes the move even more ridiculous. You want to see if your third stringer can do it? How about finding out if the guy you believe in can win a game on prime time like that, shorthanded? That's what you really needed to find out. So, yeah, maybe they have their quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Maybe they believe they do. Maybe they actually do. But from the top down, they got to rebuild this thing.
Oh, shut up. I mean, please. I just asked the Max to go get me some tissue, okay? I mean, let me just wipe my eyes right now with that soliloquy. First Joe Judge, and then you just sit up there and blow your. I'll just stop it, okay? This is much ado about. I'm annoyed right now, and here's the reason why. We understand that the Eagles have had an awful, god-awful season. We get it. We understand it. We understand that, guess what? Doug Peterson, you're lying through your damn teeth talking about you were trying to win the game. You weren't trying to win.